I have right. Hey everyone, this is Jennie Wise from WiseMind Soul Warrior, and we have Paige with us here this morning, and I might even actually be logged into a different link, but that's okay because we're going to be going live again tomorrow at 10:30. So I want to take a moment to connect and introduce Paige, and I'm going to let her do her formal introduction, and then we will start by talking about what brought you to the training and kind of what drew you towards it, and what were some things that you were wanting to get out of it when you started.
I'm Paige Logan, and I'm a mom of 3. I'm in grad school for education. I have gone through a lot of different life transitions and going on 50 now. So very happy that I found Jennie, and she's helping me with transitioning into this new phase of adulthood, call it young adulthood. And yeah, that's about it. I'm happy to have discovered yoga again. Yoga seems to come in phases in my life and has since I was 20, actually. I can remember my first yoga class out in Salt Lake City in college, actually, believe it or not. And it's weaved in and out, ebbed and flowed. And so it's always that comes back to me when I need it most.
Right. So what were some kind of specific things that drew you to the training that you felt called to, that kind of, that you felt attracted to the training, if that makes sense?
Right. Well, believe it or not, Jennie, I followed you for a little while. You didn't know it, but I was following you online. And somehow I got connected to you through, how Facebook works. I'm not sure the algorithms, but I was with Little Guru and teaching kids yoga at the time. I did that for a couple of years. And I was looking for something to enhance my learning and not be a teacher, actually be a student and truly go through the process that I felt like was needed at that time. And so I kept coming back to you, actually. Your feed would come up at different times that would be interesting to me, and it would catch my eye, and certain things that you would say, motivational quotes even that you used, were very helpful for me. And then finally, I saw the program come up this fall, and I was like, I had that, those light bulb moments that you have, like, you've got to grab onto them right then and there, or else they pass you. And that was basically what I had. It was this moment of, I have to do this. Like, there's no question about it. I'm going to reach out to her. And so I did. And, it's been great, because it's definitely, I knew the type of program that I wanted for me, because I looked into a lot of programs, and I needed something that was flexible. I needed something that I could kind of leave when life calls, because, just even this past week and a half, we've all been sick, and my kids have been sick. And so I knew that could be on hold, and I didn't have to beat myself up for missing things, and it would be there when I come back to it. And so that's important for me, to feel good about my own process and good about the material that I'm learning. Because I can rush through material easily, and I could check off the boxes and say, okay, I learned this, but then I'm not absorbing it as well as I know that I can. And so that's important to me, to be able to do, and really get the most bang for my buck, I guess you could say. And I just knew that I wanted something that I could focus on me and not be the teacher, because there's a lot of programs out there that are very teacher focused, and which is great, and I think that it's at time and place, it's needed, right? But for me personally, I wanted to get the most out of it for me, which of course will translate to my teaching in any way, shape, or form. But I wanted the process to fully, because sometimes I think when I'm in things that are teacher based, I'm constantly thinking, okay, well, when I teach this, when I do that, and sometimes I may not be as in the moment as a student. And so your program for me does that for me, and it's greatly appreciated on my end at this time of my life.
Yeah, and I definitely wanted to create it so that exactly what you just described, that you are the student as you're going through and the teacher, like all at once, because you know this, like the best teachers are lifelong students, right? The best teachers are the ones that are always learning and also wanting to go deeper into their own healing journey, right? Because, for example, like out of this, if you decide, I know you're going to teach some of this, but if you decide to take somebody else through this type of transformation, where you take somebody through yoga psychology coaching, for example, you can't take somebody through what you've not gone through yourself, right? You have to have taken that journey to then bring somebody else through that same journey, if that makes sense. And so I wanted you, each student, to be able to go through that journey to deepen your own healing so that you're going to show up as like the best version of yourself and also the best version of you as a teacher, because you've done your own healing, right? You're letting go of the ego, these, letting go of some scar patterns that aren't serving you, and kind of going deeper into like your own unconditional love and your own sense of like real confidence and real self-worth, so that when you do step in to teach, that you have released, those things, that you're truly just a vessel, for healing for your students, or a guide, right? So that was kind of the thought process behind it. And also like going on 10 years now of like my own healing and group therapy and individual therapy and mindfulness study and yoga psychology study and somatic mind body therapy study and meditation and all the things. And I've taken all that and put it into this training. So like every single thing I could possibly like fit into this, including like working one-on-one with yoga psychology clients, I've given that to you guys, like done for you handouts. I've given like workshop handouts, like you could take somebody through a meditation workshop, and I'm handing you the handouts to do that. So that's important to mention, because it's different than like you said, a normal like training that you're getting a manual, and you still get a manual and you get all those things, but you're getting all this other stuff on top of it that you can use yourself as a teacher or as a coach to be able to walk other students through it. But first, we have to start with you going through, like you said, your own healing and transformation. And that's what this training is meant to do. So tell me, speaking of transformation, like where do you feel where you have seen like the most change? Is it different patterns? Is it like stress resilience, emotional resilience? Like what do you kind of feel up to this point where you have seen your own transformation in your own life with the training?
I think just in the first 6 weeks with module 1, I felt like emotional. I'm more emotion mind. I go towards that automatically. It's just been embedded in me from when I was a young age. And that can be a positive and a negative, as we know. And I've noticed with module 1, just going through that's helped me take that pause at times. I'm not perfect at it, obviously. I have things that still, like this past week, I was frustrated, and I realized I'm going into emotional mind because I'm not feeling up to par, and I'm not able to do all I want to do. And I have that task master thing going. I'm not able to check off the things I want to do. And so that I get frustrated. But having some of those tools in my back pocket, I can reset quickly. I get to know, okay, yes, I did this, and I can forgive myself if I've exploded and thought things or said things or did rush through something that I know I didn't give it my all, maybe. And I can forgive myself and go, okay, get up and try again, do it again, start over, wipe that slate clean. I can pause, reset, and go again. And so that's helped me. That's been a huge tool in my back pocket to be able to use. And I imagine as I go through the program, I'll work those muscles to be able to use them even faster. And that I look forward to doing that.
Yeah. So would you say, for you personally, would you say perfectionism is one of the samskara patterns?
I do have it in certain areas in my life. I would say there's certain areas that I definitely have perfectionism in. And then other areas where I'm like, nope, I don't have those little details. And I could care less. I'm definitely a big, very big, broad picture person. So I'm always looking above and, kind of like the ringmaster, the circus. And so I do a lot of that. And so once I let go and really let other people take on the jobs when I'm confident in them. But in certain parts of my life, I definitely have a perfectionist inside of me, as far as like with the amount of tasks that I can complete during the day. I've always loved a checkoff list, and it does make me feel productive, but in a sense, that perfectionist side saying I should have been able to do that. Why didn't I get time to do that today? Or, I really had to learn how to let go of some of that and go, okay, well, you get enough done during the day that is supposed to get done. And the other things can get moved to the next day. And when you have more energy, I've learned kind of my energy cycles too. I definitely have days where I'm just low energy at times and days when I'm real high energy. And I try to go with that and not beat myself up. Whereas before, that perfectionist side, even on my low energy days, would be like, what are you doing? Why aren't you getting enough done? You're going to just be that much far behind tomorrow. And so I would hear that voice in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And I just even going through the last six weeks or so, I can recognize that voice and go, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to get enough done. When I have that energy, I'll go with it. And when I don't have that energy, go away with that perfectionist voice in there. I'll get it done.
Yeah,
So
it sounds like you have more, like you said, of the taskmaster, of like the workaholic type, like not getting enough done, versus like the perfectionist of self-worth and self-love, of like, I'm not enough, if that makes sense. It sounds like
you're right. 100%
taskmaster, right. Like, and again, you and I talked about this, right? I'm right here with you. Like, as far as like, for me, it was about every samskara pattern you can imagine. You have to distract myself from not actually having to feel the real feelings before I actually started my healing journey. And so, workaholic, perfectionist, and I had all the things, right? Imposter syndrome. Who do you think you are? Super loud inner critic, self-sabotage, beat myself up, the whole thing. So I get that. And we've started talking about that in the training, of actually the trauma of the overachiever and the trauma of the high performer. Of many times there is a underlying root cause trauma of why we have that pattern the way we do. And I've shared that in module 5. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch that yet, but I'm telling you, when you watch that, it will be as if it's talking right to you.
Oh, that's wonderful to know. Okay.
Because and I can't think of some of the points because it's been about a month since I've taught it, but it was like so eye-opening to make those connections of like, for me personally, I can only speak to my experience of like the unconscious, way I was seeking the outside validation through the past corporate positions that I've had, that I was subconsciously seeking the acceptance, seeking like, checkbox, ring a bell, whatever you want to call it, that the more productive I was, that's what I placed my value on.
Yeah.
Right. My self-worth was based on what I got done and how productive I was. And my self-worth was based on my job, right? I equated myself, my identity with my job instead of who I am as a person, right? Who I am in my core as a human, versus I was my job, if that makes any sense. And how well my job was doing or not doing, that is how I equated my self-worth.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm here again to share, like you just said, with like the checkbox, right? Of like years and years and years of making lists and then beating myself up that I didn't get enough done, when the expectation, right, of what I put on myself was like a list of 50 things, for example, and I might have been able time to get 5 of those done. But then I beat myself up anyway when I didn't get it done.
Yeah.
So I'm here to share that you can heal and you can transform that pattern. That, I don't make as many lists the way I used to. It doesn't mean that I don't make lists, but I make more realistic lists at this point, and I give myself that grace, and I'm gentle with myself. That it's like, this is not realistic, right? What you are trying to do in this like time period is not realistic. And you also have to give yourself time to rest, right?
Yeah.
You can't be on all the time. And so that's where I've learned mindful self-compassion, and we're teaching that in the training of like what you just said, is that we have to train ourselves to be able to rest and to practice things like non-striving and non-doing, which is a mindfulness principle of it is okay to not be doing something.
Right.
It is okay. Like, right. And it has taken me years to rewind to that. And I know you can relate to that, to like give myself rest, like it's okay, and to be gentle with myself. And that I don't have to put all these expectations on myself all the time. And that I'm still valued and I'm still worthy and I'm still enough without that, if that makes sense.
It does. And I go through, I think when I was talking about that energy level, I kind of crash and burn. So then it's that cycle of you beat yourself up because here, you want a day where you just don't do anything that day. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired because I've been go. And you crash and burn and you beat yourself up for that because you feel guilty for not doing that. And that I have gotten better at that, better at doing nothing. I tease my friends like, sometimes I could be happy watching paint dry.
I love
that's not true.
Yeah, like the ringmaster, right? You had mentioned that about the big picture. I think that's a way to kind of think about the taskmaster actually is like the ringmaster. That the taskmaster is like, you can imagine like the whip or whatever, it's like that all day. It's like that person in the back of your head, like, you're not doing enough, you're not doing enough, you're not, and it's just like that story and that old limiting belief over and over and over. And equating your worth again with the amount of quote things that you do and how long your checklist is for that day.
For sure.
Right. And we're equating my worthiness with that. So I invite you and anybody else who hears this replay or hears this to work on identifying that, being self-aware of it, figuring out the root cause, and then healing it and transforming that pattern. Because again, I'm here to tell you, you can transform any pattern you've done your whole life. And I'm a testimony of all the patterns that you can change, that there's beautiful freedom on the other side of that transformation. I promise.
Well, it's great that I now am able to know that that's a pattern of mine. So as I go through your modules, I'll be able to dig a little deeper and pull that out, especially knowing now that come module 5, that's in there.
Yeah. So we talk about like the trauma in relationships in module 4, and we talk about trauma in module 5. I mean, there's a lot more we talk about, and it's mostly focused on the business of yoga and wellness and marketing and branding and all of that. But it also has to do with your why and your sankalpa of why you're doing the things that you are, and how do you really get deep into that, what your why is, which without that, you can't really do the aligned action of what your dharma and what your purpose is, right? Without doing that work. And the work that we're doing in module 1 around the inner work, the inner work that has to happen. So that shows up on the outside, but it has to start with the inside, right? Transforming from the inside out.
Sure. I love that.
So if you can share a little bit about your experience with taking the training online and, working with the learning management system, taking classes in sadhanas and asanas with me online, and just some of the experience you've had with kind of the logistics, for lack of a better word, of the training, if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. For me, obviously, the pandemic has kind of made us all transition to online. So it's been a beautiful thing and then a frustrating thing at the same time over the years. I transitioned to teaching kids yoga online for a while, and that was a wonderful thing too. What I find that I benefit from your program, I love the lives and being able to, every so often you have pop-up like yoga classes that will come on a Saturday morning. And so that's really nice to have. But I also love the fact that some of the recordings are pre-recorded, so I can look at them in my own time. I can, if it's 11 o'clock at night and I feel like, you know what, I want to spend 2 hours reading and listening, then I can do that. That helps me, you know, especially when the kids are asleep and down and the house is completely quiet.
Yeah.
So the online part was very appealing to me from the get-go, only because I've learned 2 years ago, I would not have said that at all. I would have said, oh, you know, I think we talked about this the other day. I'm a studio person. I have to be in a studio. I grew up a dancer. So studio to me, like the smells and the floor and everything, I just, you know, those senses I love. And there is a time and place for that. But since the pandemic and with your program, what I have found is I found my little nooks, you know, like here I'm in my bedroom nook that I have that I love, that I can check in immediately. I'm in my space. And other times I go when the weather's warm, which next week it will be. I go on my screen porch and I can do asana there and meditation as well. And so those are two places that I know that I can go that I immediately go into my zone, and then I can plug you in, turn you on, listen to your practice, and I can dig deep and sort of tune out. If I was in a studio, there would be other people, so I would still be aware of other people, which once again, time and place, and it's a beautiful thing. But for me right now, it's been extremely helpful. And I feel like I've dug deeper than I have before in some of my practices because of being online and it just being me and up to me do the practice. And I'm enjoying that. I find myself yearning for it. You know, this past week and a half when I haven't been able to do it, I can tell a difference. And I'm craving it. And I'm going, okay, I need time. I need to be able to do this and sit on the mat, do my practice, do meditation, and whatever I get to. You know, if it's 30 minutes and I have to press pause because the kid's knocking on my door saying I'm hungry or whatever it is, I can do that. And then I can come back to it. I love it, obviously, when I can get the 90 minutes, and that's my ideal almost every day. And I try to do that. But it's been, I would say, surprisingly beneficial for me to have it online and to go through the modules. I love it. Like I can, I have like module 1 here. I print it off. You don't have to print it off, but I'm a paper person, so I do print it off. And so not to be overwhelmed, I'm printing off one module at a time, and I can really go through it, read it, but then also look at your videos online and go back, which I love too, because some things, you know, just float on by and you realize I have to revisit it. So that's really nice to be able to do. It's guided, it's put together really well and very easy, easy access, the platform that you use. I love the fact that you put extra bonus material at the end too. That's always really, really fun for me to be able to go through the meditations and the practices that you provide. Yeah, I think it's a real positive thing for me right now. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I probably would have argued with myself. But we're at a different place right now. We're at a different place right now. And it's open.
I will tell you, like for me personally, like looking back at my own training experience, like I have done online as well. So I've done both. I've done in person and I've done online. And, you know, part of that, obviously a big part of that, it started, you know, before the pandemic, as far as me doing in person and online. Right. And then obviously as we got further into the pandemic, I was doing, as we talked about, most of my practice was my own home practice or taking teachers online. And so that was definitely part of my inspiration and my story of like taking this online is based on my own experience of, okay, this is something that because of COVID happening, that Yoga Alliance is allowing us to do this.
Right.
And normally all of this would have to be in person. You know, that is a gift in some ways, because the other thing it allows us to do is to work with other people that are beyond just in Raleigh, North Carolina, right? So if somebody is we have people from Virginia and Maryland and Florida and New York, and different places that if we didn't have the capability to teach online, I would only be limited to the people in Raleigh, right? So that's another part of it, is being able to get this out to more people. And then the other piece of it, of course, is like the self-paced part, that once that is taped and once it's done, then you all can go back to it, right? And it's lifetime access. So you can go back anytime. If a year from now you want to go back and retake a practice, you can. So that to me is like two of the big inspirations, is for you guys to be able to go through it at your own pace. Because for myself, part of my journey was doing immersions and also online. And so that's another reason why I also want to include like an immersion this year, even if it's just a weekend, because I also want you all to experience that as far as being in person, in addition to being able to be with me online with the weekly group coaching that we do. And then your own self-paced piece where you're, taking that practice and doing the sadhanas and the asanas on your own. Yeah. So it's kind of like these different layers, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you said, you've got your own sadhana and asana practice where you're doing it, say, in your bedroom, you've got your space there, or some people might have a yoga room, or you're going out on your porch and you're creating a sadhana practice there, and whether you're watching it on your computer, on your phone, plugging it into a TV screen, which is something I used to do. I used to take an HDMI cord and I would plug it from my computer into a TV screen and I would watch it on a TV screen. So it was like almost life size, not quite life size, but it would make you feel like you're in a space, if that makes sense.
Great idea.
And so those are, again, some inspirations, and definitely, I've been talking about apparently doing a 300 training over 5 years ago. This would have been like 2016, when I had started my first 300 training. I had an old friend of mine tell me, I remember you talking about this. And I didn't remember talking about it, but she did. So when this manifested last year, she was like, you were talking about this when we were going through our 300. And it was like, no, I don't remember. But it's like such an inspiration, because what I love about a 300 is with Yoga Alliance, there's a portion of it that we have to cover, right? That everybody has to cover. And those hours, you have to check those boxes. Yeah. But then there's a bigger portion, more like 70% of the training is what you bring, and what you want to teach the students. And so that's what I love about a 300, is that you are bringing in what you feel is important for those students to learn, right? It's not being dictated by, what Yoga Alliance is telling us. And in a 200, it's pretty much like 90% of that is it's just a checkbox, and you follow that. That's got its place. And I've taught those I did three 200 trainings. So I've done that, and it's all good. It's a good, foundation. So nothing, it's all positive. I've taken a Yoga Alliance 200 certification. But what I'm saying, based on my own journey of what I felt inspired and motivated to teach, was these things that are in this training right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Based on my own journey, right? So I'm simply sharing with you what has worked for me and what I've done with other students, so that you guys can have it for your own journey or to share it with somebody else. So, so anyway, just a little side note on that, of what inspired us to get where we are right now. So tell me, as far as doing a consultation with me. Okay, so there's people out there. I've been talking to people for the past week and a half. I've got more consultations scheduled over the next 3 days. But there's still people out there that are like, I don't know, they haven't, because in order to be part of the training, you have to do a consultation, because we have to make sure that there's a good, energy is there. They're a good fit for the rest of the people in the training. they're ready to make a commitment. They're in the space energetically and emotionally that they're really ready to make a change. They want to go through a transformation like this, whether they're a yoga teacher and they want to add to their credentials, they want to add to their toolbox, or whether they're a corporate person, a mom, an entrepreneur, a student that's a dedicated student that wants to go deeper. We want to make sure that, it's in alignment, right? So either myself or a mentor that we have on the team is going to take those students through a consultation.
Sure.
So share with everybody that's like been waiting to get on and schedule something, what it's like getting on the phone with me so that other people can hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean, it's just so easy. I mean, and that's a terrible word to use because it doesn't describe that much, but it just feels natural. So for me, I can understand how some people might be hesitant, and because you are sharing a lot of yourself. But you definitely, I mean, you're warm. No, there's no doubt about it. You're a warm person. So immediately for me, I felt very comfortable and welcomed. No, it didn't seem like any question was too stupid to ask. I didn't have to be at a certain point in my yoga career per se to enter. So, you have some of that, I don't know, what I would call kind of the yoga snobbiness. I don't know if there's a word for it, but it's out there, right? I've experienced it. I've moved from different communities, and definitely, I know when I kind of experience it, and I shy away from it because I get a feeling that it's not all, it doesn't feel as all inclusive as I think of what to me yoga should feel like. And your program immediately eludes that. So you ask the questions, you prompt. It feels like a natural guided conversation that's not forced. And you kind of meet us where we're at from my perspective. You met me right where I was. And that was a very comforting aspect and made me realize, okay, I definitely want to do this because she sees me. She sees where I am. She understands me. And I assume you seem to be the type of person that even if you didn't fully understand somebody, you're going to try to understand them and try to listen to them. So you immediately puts people at ease, in my opinion. And that's probably your natural gift that you have. And so the consultation for me felt light. It gave me hope. It got me excited. And we've had another one as far as check-ins go, and that helps too. That kind of makes sure that you're keeping a pace, and that you're holding yourself accountable as well, which that's important. So the check-ins along the way are great tool to add. I knew that by talking to you, it's almost like it validated that I knew that I wanted to do this. So you guys,
sometimes you need like that little nudge, that little bit of encouragement, or like you said, a motivation, inspiration. And, I certainly am not here to push anybody into anything they're not ready for, right? We want students in the program that are ready to make a commitment and they're ready to make a change.
Right.
But it's definitely, like you said, it's more of a conversation of like, okay, here's the things I'm struggling with. Here's the things I'd like to change. And this is where I want to go, right? So this is what I'm struggling with right now. And whether it's your own personal healing journey or whether it's in your business, right? It could be somebody who's like you, who's wanting to launch or grow a yoga business, or it could be someone who's a student and they're struggling with perfectionism, or struggling in their relationships, or struggling with emotional, dysregulation, or stress management, or anxiety or depression. And they're wanting to learn holistic mental health skills and to get the root cause of what's causing these patterns for them, which a lot of it is the family of origin work, but getting to the root cause and why are some of these patterns showing up for them. And I've been talking to a lot of people that are struggling right now with all those things. They're seeing the unhealed wounds play out in their relationship, or play out in their career or their business, or it's manifesting for them with anxiety and or depression. So that's what a yoga psychology discovery consult is I'm simply, you tell me, here's the things I've done. I've tried talk therapy. I'm whatever it is, right? I've not, I'm starting my journey right now, or I've done all these things and it's gotten me to a certain point, but now I need to go deeper. Now I need to go into this, inner work and the family of origin and the somatic mind body yoga therapy of like releasing the emotions or the trauma or the patterns, the samskara patterns that aren't serving me anymore. Right. So that I can move into the best version of myself. And whoever that is, whether it's a teacher or it's a mom or it's an entrepreneur, whatever that is of what your purpose and your dharma is, to be able to step into that, right? To really be able to show up 100% in the best version of yourself with your own gifts and talents and all of that. So that's what I'm here to serve people for, and to guide them, is to, again, release the things and move into the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I think from what I see, it's not cookie cutter at all. So that's what I mean. Like I felt like you met me where I was at time and place. And so there's not just this one formula. Okay, you do this, blah, blah, blah. It's, okay, well, this is what I know. This is what I can do. Tell me more, Paige. Describe this. And how do you feel about that? And so that, I think you create a sense of normalcy around it, and that warmth that you exude made me feel very comfortable to just blurt everything out basically and say, this is where I am. Ta-da!
Well, I will tell you, it has taken me years, right, to be to that place where I can be just simply a mirror for people, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at some point, if you choose to do something like that, you're going to be a mirror for somebody else, right? When you're further along in your own journey. Because I can tell you, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if I wouldn't have released these things that I've released or healed the things that I have, I wouldn't be like this open, right? I wouldn't be able to be this transparent and this vulnerable, to be able to share, like, here's the things that have worked for me, here's the things that have not worked for me, and be open and honest about it, right? And so that's where I want you and everybody in the training to get to, that whatever that part of your story that you feel comfortable sharing, that becomes a light and a motivation and an inspiration for somebody else. Does that make sense?
I love that. I love the mirror part too. I love that. And you really do. I think that is a gift, because when you can show people the mirror of themselves, they do. I think people respond to that.
Yeah. And I think in doing it in a kind, compassionate, gentle way, right? Not in a judgmental way, right? But in a kind, gentle, compassionate, empathetic, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it without me getting emotional, because I mean, you and I can relate in so many ways, as far as like the beating yourself up, as self-sabotage, and the inner critic of looking at where I was like 10 years ago, for example, or 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. Every year that goes by, every, month that goes by, we're deepening that healing journey, right? Because healing is a lifelong journey, right? The inner work is a lifelong journey. We're always evolving and transforming and healing. And the version of Paige and the version of Jennie in January 2023 will be different than where we are right now, right? Just like the version of us right now is different than where we were a year ago, right? So I think I get like excited just talking about it, knowing that, just one every year, like more and more layers are being peeled back and more healing is happening. And it's really an honor, really, to guide people through it, because again, when I first started like sharing my own story, I couldn't even talk about it without getting emotional or potentially crying. And to be in the place now where I can talk about my story and I can talk about the things that I do without getting emotional, I mean, it doesn't mean that sometimes I don't still tear up or get emotional, but for the most part, I have been able to work through that, right? Where I am not in my own story, right? In that, I am beyond that of not being in my story. It's simply sharing it without that emotional attachment to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. That's what a great place to be, and I assume we all ebb and flow different stories of our life. And so
Right.
it'll change, but when you can, on certain stories of your life, when you can be on that side, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And you're going to be on that side, right? I mean, you're already in the process,
In the
right? You've
process.
already healed and transformed things already.
Yeah.
But that's just like what I'm talking about, that evolution, right? It's always changing and transforming, because we're always going through these different experiences that are equipping us, right? And preparing us for, oftentimes we don't know what it's going to be, right? And we don't have to know. We don't have to know it all. And I think that's the other piece that has been one of the many life lessons that yoga has taught me is, and mindfulness has taught me, is acceptance and letting go. And that, one of my trauma responses used to be trying to control everything. Thank God I don't have that anymore. So, I would try to control. It's like, this is out of my control. I have to let this go. Like, I can't, like, what we're living in right now in a global pandemic is a beautiful life lesson opportunity of letting go of, I can't control what COVID's doing. I can't control Omicron. I can't, I can only control my response to it. And believe me, at this point, I think for all of us, it is a daily practice of not, continuing to have patience with, what we're living in, if that makes sense. Like every single day, it's like practicing patience of, okay, like it's coming again, and just like, again, that wave of the flow of letting it go, right? It's like, oh, I thought this was, oh wait, here it comes again, like, it is a very unique, probably one of the biggest opportunities that we will have in our lifetime of being able to practice patience and letting go. We're living in it right now.
You said something that just strikes a nerve with me, because there's so many people, saying that, our kids are so far behind, and, everyone's so stressed about that. And honestly, if you really think about it, big picture, they're learning something now that people take lifetime to learn, and it's having to let go and more go with the flow and see the bigger picture of things. Yeah, there might be details that they're missing out on, but overall, what a good life lesson to have, that they're learning, they're living it right now. And I think as adults, some of our mental health obviously has it's taken a toll for a lot of people, but it's probably brought a lot to surface because we weren't taught those skills.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I wouldn't wish this obviously on anybody, as far as like going through something like this, or the kids that have had to, do virtual school, or people that have gotten sick. Obviously, like, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but the gift of it, when you look at everything that's happening as a lesson, or what is the lesson, or what is the blessing in everything that's happening, is it has taught us patience, and it also has made us a lot stronger, right? Like, you have to have a really strong mental and emotional and physical health and spiritual health to get through something like this, right? So when you look at it from a mindset that way, it's not an easy way to look at it, right? I'm not sitting here saying like that's an easy, because it's not, but it's a mindset that we can look at it as, of like, okay, what is the gift in this? And it's, again, I'm not sitting here saying it's easy, because it's not.
No, but to see that brighter side of it can be helpful, I think, because we've lost so much, but what have we gained too? So look at what's gained as well, because always with losses there's gains. So
right,
it's story of life. But wow, it just when you were talking, that really just hit with me, because I mean, I'm in school system, so public school, so that I'm hear that constantly throughout. Oh, the kids, they've lost so much. They're never going to make back up. We've done them such a disservice. And, really, when you think about it, wow, what emotional resilience that they're having to learn right now that growing up, I know I certainly wasn't taught, probably wasn't exposed to, and have had to deal with it more as an adult to figure those things out. Where they're having to learn it on the fly,
right?
To speak.
So, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And some of these things that you're learning in the training, I can't wait to see how you might use some of those with kids. If you decide to take some of that, to use some of that with kids as well, because Lord knows, like you said, kids today more than anything, even pre-pandemic, but even in the pandemic. I mean, it was there before the pandemic, but they need to learn these skills around stress and emotional resilience. And that's one of the most important things that they can learn as far as life skills for the rest of their life. Because I'm right there with you. That took me well into my, probably 30s and 40s to start figuring this stuff out. If I would have known some of this stuff when I was a teenager or in my 20s, you and I have talked about this, my testimony and my story would be different. But I'm here as a testimony that was my story, and that's what's brought me to where I am now. But if I had those skills, if I had meditation and yoga and breath work and understanding that emotion is energy in motion and you can change your thoughts, change your life, like all that stuff, like that I get to control my energetic vibration. I get to control my thoughts. I control my emotions, versus them being in charge of me. Right. It would have been very different, but that's a motivation right there and an inspiration for you to take that into the schools and into the kids that you may end up interacting with, whether they're tweens or teens. There's a lot of help.
So important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for me, breath work really does change my makeup. When I'm consistently doing it, even after a week, I feel like my DNA is changing as I'm doing it, and I feel that. And growing up, like you said, had I known or pieced this together, that would have been beneficial for me. Being that I was a dancer, I did a lot of modern dance, which does deal with a lot of rise and fall of your breath and movement. And I always knew that I felt different when I did modern dance versus ballet, classical, and different modalities. But looking back, I can see why. And it is because of the rise and fall of the breath and the focus of that, where you're placing your body in space. And that's really, it's important. It's important to piece it together.
Yeah. Well, one last piece. So what else would you say to someone as far as recommending the training? Like if somebody's out there and they're considering it, they watch the replay, what would you say to them as far as, what would you recommend and say to them as far as joining the program?
I would say reach out and talk to you. Just do it. Like one of the things, if you have the inkling to do it right then and there, reach out and go with that thought, that first initial thought before you talk yourself out of it and say, oh, maybe I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe I'll do it the next day. But reach out and do it, because, extend that one leaf and then or branch, I should say, and then branches grow off of that, I guess, not doing the analogy quite right. But all it takes is that one little motion to do that, and it sets wheels in motion. And so if someone is even hesitant, if they could take a deep breath and say, really listen to, okay, what do I need this? Maybe I do. And if there's a maybe in there, to just reach out and talk to you, because you don't have to commit, and even if you don't commit now, it's not as though 6 months from now, they couldn't reach back out to you and say, I'm ready. Right now I'm not. And you could talk through that with you to know if you can dedicate the time to the program. And you actually, I know you helped me to kind of see, okay, do you really have time for this? Is this something that you can dedicate a commitment to? And so you can figure that out alongside you instead of thinking to yourself and having that mind, that voice in the back of your mind saying, no, what are you thinking? No, you can't do that. You don't have time for that.
Right.
You know, all the no's. If you can, they can call you, reach out to you, talk things through, talk it out to even see if it's a possibility.
Right.
I would I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah. And there's really like 3 common things that we run into, right? The first one is time, which you just mentioned,
Right.
which most people, if it's a priority for them, they'll figure out the time piece, right? Even though it might feel overwhelming at first, but if that type of healing journey, or they're really ready for a change, or they're really ready to step into the next version of whatever they're going to be as a teacher, they'll figure the time part out. Same thing with the financial piece. If everything else is in alignment and they're feeling called, I went through the same thing when I went through my own training, right? I figured out the financial piece, right? So that's not to say that there may not be people out there that really can't right now, and that's okay. But I'm talking about the other students that they can, they just have to figure it out. Does that make sense?
Right. No, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
And I'm here to help, support. Like I've been talking to people about different payment plans and different things like that. But the last thing I want is the financial piece to be something that's holding people back. So I can't put all that on a sales page. So unless people talk to me about it and I walk people through different options, I can't put everything on a page, right? So that's another reason to have a consultation with me.
It is. Because it's so individual for you to be able to take people through that and say, okay, well, what works for you? What can you do? And you work with us. I've enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait to get to the other modules. I've hated that I've missed the last week and a half due to my family sickness, but it doesn't feel like work, So I think that's where, as you dive into it, it really does feel like you're nurturing your soul. So you're getting stuff out of it, and it's if you can commit to some of the time to do it, you'll find yourself wanting to make more time for it. As time goes by, you want to make more time for it because you're gaining energy from it. It's not something else to do that's going to drain your energy. You're going to gain energy from doing the modules and the work that you take us through.
Yeah, I love that. You just made me kind of think of a phrase of soul work, right? Doing soul work.
Yeah.
Right. That's another phrase to think about. Like the inner work is soul work, because that's what you're doing. You're transforming yourself from the inside out. You're healing, in a yoga term, your heart chakra, your anahata, but you're also healing your soul and your atman. Right. From the inside out. And so that's really going to allow you to shine your light even brighter, because again, you've healed your heart and you've healed your soul. And that just opens up a whole nother level of unconditional love and compassion that you're able to give to other students, and to hold a non-judgmental space, because you've let go of the judgment of yourself. You have done a judgment detox, that you no longer judge yourself. And guess what naturally happens? You don't judge everybody else around you, because that's where it comes from. The behavior comes from you judging yourself first, and you project that onto everybody else around you. Now, when you heal that pattern, again, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, because the level of unconditional love that you can give to the other people around you, once you've given that to yourself, it just you can't even, I can't even put words, or it's priceless as far as an in a financial investment. But I'm talking about like a whole nother level of the amount of ripple effect, I guess is a good word that I've heard with many, many students that have come back to me and they've said, I've done this work, and it's not only changed the way I treat myself, it's changed me as a mom. It's changed me as a wife, for those of them that are married. It's changed my interaction with my husband, the way I see my husband or my partner. It changes me in my career. It changes me if you run a business. Like, it touches every area of your life.
Yeah, and I think that's why making time for it becomes easier. It does. That's something. It doesn't feel like you have to fit it in. Like, as I know, I've gone by it. I'm craving it. I want to do it. So
Right. And I think
make
the other thing
time
is
for it.
like you just said, I think of it as like emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical self-care investment in
Mhm.
myself, my own mental health, so that I have a full cup to give to other people around you.
For sure.
Because when you're not doing this work and you're not taking care of yourself, you are running on an empty cup and
Yeah.
you don't have the same level of what you can give to everybody else around you, including as a mom,
Right.
because you're running on an empty cup. So that's another way I like to think about this program, is that you are feeding, you're giving yourself those things that you need to stay at a full cup,
Yeah.
in a place of joy, a place of peace, legacy of peace, calm in the chaos, all that. So I'm going to say
Mhm.
one more thing and then we're going to jump off.
Okay.
Is I want to say, like the ego is going to tell you, just stay in your comfort zone, right? That's what the brain's job is. It's just like, stay in your little comfort zone. Don't go outside your comfort zone. And that includes getting on a yoga psychology discovery call. The brain's gonna be like, no, 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 wait, 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 right? So that's what the brain's job is to tell you. So I am here to invite you to step out of your comfort zone and like schedule a call, a yoga psychology call with me. And we're going to just talk about what you're struggling with right now, where you want to go, and how we can potentially support you. And that's pretty much it. So when the brain tells you that and the mind says, resistance to change, which is what naturally will happen anytime you're trying to do something that is outside your zone and is outside of your habits. And so that includes meditation, breath work, yoga, right? When you're trying to build your meditation practice, the brain is going to go, no, right? You have to push through the resistance because it's going to try to keep you from doing things that are healthy and that are good for you because they're outside of your pattern, the pattern that you've created. Does that make sense? Even if it's healthy for you, even if it's something that's good for you, you have to retrain that pattern so that you're doing
You
what
really
is healthy for you, right? Because the brain, the neuroscience is that in the neuron pathways, the brain will go to the path of least resistance, right? The energy will flow and the pattern will flow to the path of least resistance. And if that path is, not taking care of yourself or not exercising or not watching what you're eating or not meditating or doing prayer, whatever it is, it will go to that path until you retrain it to take care of yourself in a different way.
It wants to go to the known. The known
Yeah.
path is
Yeah.
more comforting at the time than the unknown, right? Okay.
Yeah. And that includes unhealthy patterns, right? That includes
Right.
especially going into emotion mind, right?
Yes.
If your pattern is going into emotion mind, you will continue with that pattern in the unconscious and subconscious for the rest of your life. It will play over and over and over until you stop it, until you stop the pattern, right? Our job is to disrupt the patterns that are not serving us anymore and disrupt the things that are not healthy or serving us. That's our job, is to work on healing ourselves so that we're not putting these patterns out anymore that aren't serving us and also aren't serving anybody else that we're
Yeah.
encountering, right? Because when we're unhealed, we're projecting that wound onto everybody else around us too.
So true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So that was a big motivation for me, is that I didn't want to project that anymore onto the other people around me. Right. So, all right. Well, I am sending you and everybody else who listens to this replay so much love, light, and blessing. Again, I will be doing consultations actually over the weekend as well. So if you need to connect over the weekend or you need to connect during the evening or the day, I have carved out time in my schedule this weekend and next week. And I don't normally do like one-on-ones like this. I don't do one-on-ones on the weekend. So if you're feeling called, like Paige said, I invite you to get on and schedule a consultation. Okay. All right. So I cannot wait to continue to connect with you, Paige, and to see what you do with this training. And I cannot wait to see who joins us in the training for 2022. We already have people that have signed up, and lots of people I've already done consultations with. So I am super excited to just continue with whatever this next cohort is going to look like, right? Because it's already in the works. Like higher power is already doing the work behind the scenes of what this next cohort is going to look like. So I'm going to say namaste. I'm going to close this out. And again, so much gratitude for you getting on here and sharing your story and sharing your testimony and you know, taking your time and your energy, because I know you're super busy. So thank you so much gratitude for you taking the time and energy to be here to share your experience with everyone.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
All right, girl. All right. Well, you have a beautiful rest of your weekend. I hope you and everybody else in your family continues to heal and feel better. And we will talk to you soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Jennie.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.